The Gospel of Mary Magdalene begins in medias res, an expression from Latin meaning in the middle of things, which I wrote near the spine of the spiral of every notebook I filled up with terrible teen poetry from the years 2003 to 2007 after learning the phrase in AP Literature class. Now I teach AP Lit and its accompanying lexicon. First person POV, second person POV, third person limited, third person omniscient, third person objective, alliteration, allusion, archetype, assonance, caesura, catharsis, closed form, conceit, connotation, dialect, diction, dramatic irony, dynamic characters, enjambment, epiphany, flashback, foil, free verse, hyperbole, imagery, implied metaphor, juxtaposition, line, meter, narrator, open form, paradox, personification, perspective, rhyme, setting, simile, situational irony, speaker, stanza, static character, symbol, syntax, and understatement. And even if just now you felt listless from the law of my list making, it is difficult, I hope, to deny that each term, anyway, turns us towards something new. Who is speaking, and why, and how, and to whom, and for what, and inside which, and meaning that, and now we know, and now she knows, and ain't it beautiful, and now the audience knows, but the characters don't, and the character stays still, learning nothing, and the character moves metaphorical mountains, and the fire licks, and the shadows stick to the side of the silo, and the sun sets on us like a bad dream, and the darkness is both dawn, and how it awakens us to danger, and night, and how it lays us at the mercy of our senses beyond sight. In medias res. I have written it over and over, thinking, but aren't we always in the middle of things? It is easiest and still true to think that to have been at the beginning is to have been born at all, but to be born, of course, is simply a continuation of all of life, and that life will extend beyond us as it extended before us. I was taught that God is the Alpha and the Omega, the light and therefore the dark, and us humans here on earth, the tiny treasures of his middle. God was before the Garden of Eden, and he will be after the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. I was taught those horsemen are just metaphors for the human conditions that will bring about the end of all we know: conquest, war, famine, and death. But I don't think the horsemen are a metaphor. I guarantee you the heralds of the apocalypse will be cisgendered men on horses wearing very shiny cowboy boots, promoting their podcast in which they all keep interviewing each other about their deep no-homo love for David Lynch and his masterpiece of a film, Blue Velvet, rivaled only by their affection for David Foster Wallace's novel Infinite Jest, even though they have never read even one of the book's 1,079 pages. Not that I've read it, and not that I ever would. Also, R.I.P. David Lynch. I love you. Just hate the film Brooks. There are better ways to waste time watching the world hate women. Like watching 1,079 hours of the reality TV sensation, Rock of Love with Bret Michaels, that ran on VH1 from the years 2007 to 2009. The first episode aired 9 days after my 19th birthday. The same year I graduated high school. The same year I stopped writing in medias res near the spiral of my notebooks, perhaps because I believed then momentarily in the now of that past, in beginnings. And even if I don't now believe in the Catholic God who belongs not to me, but to my parents and my family tree moving backwards through the centuries in baptismal records scripted in French, I can't help but to believe in the godliness of what it means to revere the time beyond beginnings and endings, beyond the before and after. That long, hot light of in medias res, that strange, slow darkness at the center of living, which is merely and immensely the fleeting present of our stupid humanity. That cool blue flame of now. The word now has a lexicon of its own. The Gospel of Merriam-Webster tells us now turns 12 times, 7 as an adverb, 2 as an adjective, once as a noun, once as a conjunction, and once as an abbreviation for the National Organization for Women. NOW is a nonprofit social welfare organization founded in 1966 by 4 women. Betty Friedan, whose seminal feminist text, The Feminine Mystique, was published in 1963 and argued against the notion that women belonged only in domestic spaces. Shirley Chisholm, the first black woman elected to the United States Congress in 1968. Muriel Fox, the only founder still living as of the writing of this and whose most recent work, The Women's Revolution, How We Changed Your Life, was published June 18, 2024, 19 days before I turned 36, and 4 months after Muriel turned 96. And Pauli Murray, who was denied admission to the University of North Carolina on the basis of race, and so then graduated first in class from Howard University School of Law in 1944, and was then denied admission to Harvard for graduate school on the basis of gender, then became the first black graduate from Yale Law School with a JSD in 1965, and went on to become the first black woman ordained an Episcopal priest. In 1971, the 14th Amendment was used for the first time to protect gender equality in the Supreme Court case Reed versus Reed. Ruth Bader Ginsburg repeatedly credited Murray's work and ultimately listed Murray as a co-author of the Supreme Court brief. I want to say what Merriam-Webster says when providing us with pertinent examples for the usage of the word now. Been ill up to now, and now is the moment in which I am ill, and a moment is more than a sentence. It is a thing we wish desperately to hold in our hands, and I am now always wanting to call hands stupid, because what can they hold that matters if not a moment that makes up a life? Some of those were my own examples. But they are real questions about what can we hold? And what version of now does not sift through my fingers that are my mother's long fingers, like sand, like so much sand? And how do we get born? And does anyone get born at the beginning? And are we all either born at the beginning or none of us? In 1896, the Gospel of Mary Magdalene showed up at a market in Cairo, was sold to a German scholar, and brought to Berlin. However, it was not translated and made available to the public until 1955 due to, among other human errors, 2 world wars. The gospel does not begin in the middle because that is where she started, but because that is what is left. The first 6 pages of the gospel are missing, along with another 4 pages in the middle. What is left to us now are excerpts, but it is still enough to tell a different story about the God my parents gave me. Pauli Murray died in 1985. Scholars now call Murray's pronouns into question, wondering if they, them would have been more appropriate than the she, her pronouns used in self-reference. If alive now, Murray might have identified as a transgender man, having pleaded with multiple medical professionals to provide her with hormone replacement therapy, all of whom refused. Once referring to herself or themselves or himself as possessing a he/she personality, it's understandable why biographers consistently cite the ways in which language was lacking in appropriate identity qualifiers during Murray's life. Mary Magdalene, aka Miriam of Magdala's scripture, tells us that we reach what is divine at the intersection of body, mind, spirit, and emotions. That is, at a third space between our human experience and our humanly body's inner spiritual realm, in which we all possess the potential to reach a higher plane of living. Miriam's gospel refers to this space as the nous. Described by French scholar Jean-Yves Leloup, in the ancient world, the nous was seen as the finest point of the soul.